Minding Your Business. It's usually called a show for entrepreneurs, but we have a very special show for you this evening. This evening's show is dedicated 100% to the School of General Studies at Columbia University. And I am just so happy and thrilled to have them here. And in fact, it's something that we've been trying to do for quite some time. All of my guests, myself included, have shared in and have enjoyed a wonderful experience of being a part of Columbia University's School of General Studies. One of our guests who has referred to as a curious school, but we'll get to that and have him tell us how he came to that conclusion. We're having an all-year reunion at the end of this month, as a matter of fact, but in addition to that, we decided that it would just be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to tell you all about this very special school, the School of General Studies at Columbia University. The experience that the students have had has been really very different because the student body is so diverse. I'd like to introduce to you everyone who's here. We have Janet Griffin, who is the Associate Director for the Alumni Relations with Columbia University School of General Studies. I have to make sure I keep saying the name over and over again. Don't want anybody to forget it. Liz Hollister, who is the chairman of this year's reunion and a member of the recent Alumni Leadership Committee, and you'll tell us all about that. We have Adam Kasdan, Dr. Kasdan, who has a PhD from Stanford, and it turns out that he and the director of our show went to school together for 12 years, collegiate school. Then the director, who also happens to be my son. So that's going to be, they had a wonderful time talking before the show. We have Jessica Thompson, a special needs nanny and freelance writer, and we want really to hear something about both of those areas because I've never heard of a special needs nanny before. We have Anatol Ashraf, who is the social media manager at Data Conversion Library, and he's going to explain that to us as well. And then we have Mason Beard, a major gifts officer with Summer Search, New York City. We're going to talk to everyone about what they're doing, what they've done, how they got to GS. But Janet, let's start with you. It's just so terrific that you decided to come. You put in so much work in helping us bring this show together. So I'm glad to have you here. Now, you're the Associate Director for the Alumni Relations with Columbia University School of General Studies. Tell us something about what it is that you actually do. I mean, you work very hard, but you make it seem effortless. I know that's not the case, but it's very impressive with your efficiency and just, you know, you just seem to make things happen. So tell us, how long have you been involved in the alumni relations at Columbia?
I've been at Columbia for 3.5 years and always worked with the School of General Studies. And I get to work with all of these guys and wonderful people like you as well, who have all graduated from this school. And we do a lot of programming for our alums to keep them connected back to the school, keep them connected to each other, and allow them to come back and volunteer, come speak with students, and mentoring opportunities. They do mock interviews with our students. So I'm always arranging opportunities for alumni to come back and serve the school in some capacity.
I know, it's really, I've talked to a lot of other students or alums from other schools, and they just don't seem to get the outreach that we get here at GS at Columbia. It's really terrific, and like I said, you just do it so effortlessly. It's terrific. It's wonderful. So now, is New York home for you?
No, I'm originally from Tennessee, so I grew up in Nashville and moved here about 10 years ago with my husband who's in music, so that's actually why we came here.
Because you're...
My husband's in music, so
Is
we
he
moved here
really?
for that.
And he's going to be on the show also with... You'll have to tell him that I said so. That,
I will.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
Now, well, tell us a little bit more about the alumni community. I mean, in so many instances, I know that a lot of alums aren't necessarily that anxious to come back or to be involved or to be associated. Is there something special that you do that makes it happen?
I wish that I had a silver bullet or a magic formula or something like that that I could share with you, but a lot of it is really relationship building. So, and just these guys will also
Which you're
share
very
with
good
you.
at.
Well, thank you.
You're really very good at.
But these guys will also share with you as well. They're all on board with what we do and really helping to build those relationships and making the networks that we have even bigger and bigger, and making sure that while the students are actually students, that they know what the alumni community is and get them excited to be involved after they graduate.
Yeah, no, well, I know that you and Liz have been working together for putting the reunion together. So, Liz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, geez, it's just so great to have you here. And now, when did you graduate from Columbia? What class are you?
07. Yes.
And what brought you to, is New York your home?
No, I actually came to New York to go to GS. So,
Did you really?
Yes, from Massachusetts originally, from Western Mass, the Berkshires.
And what drew you to this particular school? I mean, had you heard about it, or you knew somebody who went there, or heard about how special it was?
You know, it's interesting actually. For me, Columbia was my dream school. I knew I always wanted to go for as long as I could remember, but I thought I'd always go to Columbia College. In high school, I went to an all-girls boarding school, and I was your typical overachiever, captain of the ski team, directed and produced my own television shows on public access, was involved in student government, and I had an opportunity to actually interview with the director of admissions at Columbia College. It was a great meeting. That same day, I had an opportunity to meet with Dean On. And I didn't know that meeting would end up changing my life, but it did. As everyone knows, Dean On has this the passion for GS, which is so inspiring. So
now, he's been there 17 years.
Yes. Yeah. So I remember thinking in that meeting, gosh, you know, here's an amazing dean and an incredible school. Too bad it's not a good fit, because I'm going to graduate from high school and I'm going to go to Columbia College. But fast forward to actually the February of my senior year in high school, I was that same girl who did it all, but I was also a girl who did a favor for a friend and made a mistake, and actually got myself kicked out of high school and for actually delivering a $10 bag of marijuana to another student. And you know, it turned my whole life upside down. I was devastated. I didn't know what I was going to do. Columbia, my dream was shattered, and I went to.
You thought it was candy or cookies or cake or something.
Right.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah, right.
I'm certain you did. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, you don't think sometimes, but yeah, I actually entered a dual degree program with a community college and got my last year of high school, my first year associate's degree in the same year, and then finished with my associates, and then found my way eventually to
Now,
GS.
what did you actually major in? Aren't you drama? Weren't you majoring?
Yeah, drama and theater at Columbia. Yes.
And did you do anything with that? I mean, you're an events planner now. I mean, you've had some pretty impressive clients, Hermes and Bloomingdale's and Facebook.
Yes.
And I mean, this is what you're doing now. And were you influenced at Columbia at GS to go into this area?
Yeah, actually, my career in events absolutely stems from Columbia. I say, and when I come to speak at orientation on alumni panels, I tell students it's all about who you meet and who you know, and that's exactly what happened to me. I actually was social chair and gala chair when I was at GS, and I hired an event planning and catering company that ended up being my first employer out of Columbia, and they hired me my senior year.
Oh, that is.
So I worked with them, and I've been in the events world for about 10 years, and now I am on the other side of the events world. I head up sales and business development in the New York City market for an events technology software company.
This is really so impressive, and all coming out of
GS, yeah.
General Studies at Columbia University.
Definitely.
This is terrific. Adam, it is just such a pleasure to have you here, and what a surprise!
I know.
I know that you and Ed, who's the director of the show, and my son had a lot to talk about.
That's right.
Spending, was it 11 or 12?
It was 11 years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
At Collegiate.
I remember him well. He looks the same.
I'm sure you do too.
Well, a little
now
bit.
you, though, have gone on to. You went to GS. You were
That's
at
right.
Vassar.
I went to Vassar for basically a year. Dropped out. Came back to the city. Held odd jobs. I worked as a
You were a
busboy.
busboy.
I was a busboy at
How
several
did you
different.
go from being a busboy to getting a PhD in English? Connect the dots, please.
It's a long and windy road, but I worked.
We don't have too much time.
You know,
so
you know, it's funny. You drop out of school and you go through the paper and you realize you have absolutely no skills and you can't do any of the jobs that are on the list. But busboy I could do, and
but
and
also
then
too, you worked in a bookstore.
and then I went from there. Actually, I walked by the Strand and they had a help wanted sign, and I got a job there. And I spent 5 years in New York working in the book business, sort of working my way up to actually opening and running a store.
Okay, I have a
in the West
question for
Village. Yes.
How did you get to know the names of all the dogs in the neighborhood where you were
right.
working? How did that happen?
You
And
know-
was that a changing point or a turning point in your
Well,
life?
you know, I was my great-grandparents were both shopkeepers, so I knew the business. And I was working in a small shop in the West Village, and so I knew every neighbor and every customer and all their dogs' names, and I did that for about a year, and I realized, uh-oh, I might be here forever, you know. One of those. And a friend of mine called me up, and she said, you know, there's this incredible thing at Columbia. It's called the School of General Studies, and I'm here. She said, I think you would like it.
And
I
you
said, really?
thought of it as a curious school?
Yeah, and I thought that's a
Curious
strange
story.
thing. You could take classes with any of the professors, and all. She said, "Oh yeah, no." So I called up. I got an interview. I was put on double probation. You know, I was actually, you know, it was. But as soon as I got on campus, it was the world opened up. I was taking art history classes with Roz Krauss and, you know, Andrew Sarris's film classes, and you know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think we have some pictures of the campus that they'll show us at any time while we're talking. Yeah, and it is an incredible campus. It really
it's
is. So, I mean,
unbelievable.
did it have a profound effect on your life? And I mean,
It was transformative, and I went still not clear what I was doing. I mean, I love to read and write. And I just kept doing it. And I wrote a paper in one class. It was a 100-person lecture, but the professor read every paper. And at the end of the class, he called my name, and I was in trouble in school a lot in high school, and I thought, uh-oh, what did I do this time? But he actually said, who are you and why are you here? And I said, well, actually, I don't know. I mean, this is who I am, but I'm not sure what I'm doing here. He said, you know, if you wanted to go to grad school, I think you could do it. And he said, come by my office later and we'll talk. And it was just one of those incredible moments where this professor sort of called me in. And
yeah, was that where you spent a lot of time? There?
I would sit and have lunch there all the time. Chat with my colleagues. You know, it was an incredible thing.
Oh, that is so great. So, I mean, now you are an English teacher at Horace Mann.
That's right, and chair of the English department there in the high school.
That is so impressive.
And and none of it would have happened if I hadn't sort of almost accidentally found my way to Columbia.
Isn't that
You know.
interesting? Because we're going to have that kind of discussion just in a couple of minutes, because it seems like we all are so diverse and come from such diverse backgrounds, but yet we all meshed together when we got to general studies. And I think we can certainly thank Dean On a lot for that.
You know, I was there in '95 before Dean On came, and the rumor was that they were going to close the program. The school didn't understand just how powerful it was and just how great the students were. But Dean On was able to actually, you know, sort of spread the word to translate.
And he's done that exceptionally
incredible.
well.
He's done an incredible
Exceptionally well with his warmth and his
Yeah.
open arms, like the statue in front of the library that we just saw. Yeah. Jessica, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I like your color combination. Very nice. Now, when did you leave? You were originally from San Diego.
Yes.
So when did you leave there and decide to come to attend GS? And was that a direct path from San Diego to Columbia?
Well, it was also a long and winding road. I started out of high school going to UCSD in San Diego as a pre-med student, realized within a year that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore, and kind of had gone through a lot with my family in high school and realized I just needed more time to figure out what I wanted to be doing with my life. So I took a few years off, worked in corporate America, kind of figured myself out, and then went back to community college and really just wanted to get a degree because I'd always been a very good student. And then as I was in community college and getting, fantastic grades, I realized, hey, I could, do something more than just going to a state school. And I came to New York for the first time after my first semester back at community college and fell in love as soon as I saw the skyline and knew I wanted to be here. So I decided about 4 months later, driving through LA, that I was going to move to New York and apply to Columbia. And I did. And I called my mom from the car and I said, I'm moving to New York. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, no, I'm going to go to Columbia.
Surprise.
This is what well, I said NYU or Columbia. And I actually thought NYU would be my first choice because it's more creative and I'm a very creative person. I was in performing arts schools my whole life. But when I came here to visit the schools, I walked onto Columbia's campus and I knew it was just this feeling. And I called my mom and I said, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And then I applied to Columbia College. I had no idea about GS. And then GS actually contacted me and said, we think you're better suited for us. It's for non-traditional students. Here's our program. And I started speaking to them and I fell in love with the idea of the school and what it could offer me and how perfectly suited for me and my story it was going to be. So, when they let me in, it was beyond elatement.
Now, you're also a special needs nanny.
Yes.
What is that? Explain to us
So
if you can. Just
I'm a
briefly.
nanny, but I specialize in children who have special needs, everything ranging from severe ADHD to children on the autism spectrum to children with emotional disturbances. I've worked with kids who are nonverbally autistic. I've worked with children who, were on a lot of medications because of emotional disturbance and whatnot. And I really, it's kind of a niche thing that I fell into. I've worked with kids for a long time. I really love working with children. And it's something that I remember growing up. I even used to volunteer in the special ed classroom when I was in sixth grade during my lunch break because I just always was drawn to these kids and really kind of connect with them. And I have a way to that I can relate to them. So it just kind of happened along the way.
That is so impressive and so different.
Yeah.
I haven't had anyone on the show who has been in that area or in that field. I mean, I've had musicians who do, therapeutic type of music or something in the hospitals and the homes, but this is so interesting. Now, you're also, though, a freelance writer?
Yes, I mean, I'm not
Published?
currently freelancing, but I have been published and I have
You were
worked as
published in an Italian...
fashion magazine.
Do you speak Italian? Or?
No. My friend was an Italian stylist from Italy, and he did a lot of styling for this magazine, and they were looking for a New York writer right when I was actually getting out of Columbia. And so the editor came into town, and he met me, and he said, you're absolutely what I want, and gave me a job on the spot getting to write for them. It was
good
great.
for
I got
you.
to do Fashion Week and have this amazing experience in the fashion world. And I did fashion and lifestyle for them, so I wrote about not just fashion, but also about different locations and hotels and whatnot as well.
Lifestyles and things
yeah,
like
luxury
that.
lifestyle.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That is so, it just gets more and more interesting, the diversity. And Anatole, I believe that you are probably the most recent.
Yes, 2012.
Oh my gosh. Oh, how does it feel to be done?
Great, terrifying, but also great, comforting.
And you've been doing some very interesting things since you left school.
Right.
What are some of they are? Now, are you a traveling musician or do you?
That was a life before GS.
Isn't that fascinating? What were you doing?
After high school, I just started my own band and just took off
What's
from
your
there.
instrument?
I sang and wrote all the songs, and I played bass and guitar and whatever else needed to be.
So you're going to come back with your group.
Kind of took off.
Okay, well, tell us what, you have a degree in evolutionary biology?
And English, a BA and the BS.
But what is evolutionary biology? I haven't, I'm not familiar with that.
It's half anthropology and half bones in the human body, essentially.
Not like the TV show Bones. I mean,
No.
awfully gory.
I could have done that, but I didn't have the
What,
stomach
the
for it.
TV show or the...
Oh, a little bit of both.
Okay, okay.
And I did the double major because the dream was for National Geographic to send me to Africa on fossil digs. So I'm waiting for that plane to take me there.
Again, don't lose sight of it. Don't lose sight of it. It could still happen. Now, you're also editor-in-chief of Comics.
Comics Verse. That's my
Tell us
startup.
about that.
It's a podcast and a website directed towards the comic book community and what's popular, what's fashionably called geek culture now. Mm-hmm. So
Now, what's the connection between that and Columbia?
I've always been a fan of. I did meet a lot of.
Did you develop the idea or the interest while you
It's
were in
actually
school?
two of us are from. It's a Columbia effort. It's
you're
put
kidding.
together by all GS students actually.
Oh my gosh.
And we do have some Columbia College people joining us,
Mm-hmm.
but it's mostly a GS effort. It's, most of us are from GS, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, gee, that is just, it's so nice to have you here. And
you.
again, the music, let's not lose sight of that. And Mason, you are a major gifts officer. What is the program that you're talking about with, that you're associated with? Is it a summer
Search.
search
Yes.
in New York City?
Yes, it's a national organization, but I work with the New York City branch.
All right, now I have a question to ask you. Did you really have something to do with getting Tyler Perry to donate $1 million to the NAACP?
Yes, I did.
Talk about diversity. How did you manage to do that? And have you introduced him to general studies at our school?
I'm sure he would love it. I had the opportunity to consult at the NAACP for about 9 months during their centennial year. And there was a major fundraising campaign around that. And Tyler Perry decided to come on board with the largest gift they've received from someone in the entertainment industry.
How
in
long
quite
did
some
it
time.
take?
It took about 5 months to really cultivate him, talk to his
Really?
lawyers, and structure the gift. So it was a huge undertaking.
Now, what were you doing before you came to GS, and what brought you to GS?
I was a professional ballet dancer, which is the background of many GS students.
As I have said many times, I was too about 40 pounds ago. School of American Ballet, the School of Performing Arts.
Oh, wow. Wow. So here in New York.
Robert Joffrey, yes.
How lucky.
And where were you performing? Were you with a company?
Yes, I grew up in St. Louis, but when I was 16, I had the opportunity to move to Philadelphia and dance with Pennsylvania Ballet Company for about 4 years. And then I was 20, and I sort of looked around and realized that all my friends were in college, and I wanted that experience as well. So finding the School of General Studies and knowing there would be this community of other dancers around me was perfect.
I mean, have you all been listening to each other? Really? And the very different paths that you've had. What is it about this school that we have all come out of that has drawn us to it? I mean, I would really just like to talk some generally about the School of General Studies at Columbia University. I mean, is there any one single experience that you had that you remember being there? I mean, just anybody, let's just talk about our school for a while.
The diversity. I mean, like we just saw here, this is a smidgen of what you experience at that school. I have friends who are Olympic medalists. I have friends who've fought in wars. I have friends who modeled on runways in Paris. You know, it's such a spectacular program that really finds a way to cater to people of every walk of life, and you know, and it brings you together, and you become friends, and you network with people who you would have never met in your life, who change your life. They really change your life, and I think that's the beauty of GS. And I'm so grateful for it. I mean, most of my best friends in New York to date are because of GS.
Well, it's interesting. I remember at some point during a fundraising drive where I called Isaac Asimov, and he a graduate of the School of General Studies, and I remember him saying, "Don't bother me now, I'm writing." But again, the diversity, and Jacques Pepin, I believe.
Yeah.
Also, is he still doing a cooking show? I think he is.
I think so.
Still connected to
So
Cooking
I mean,
Institute.
what stands out though for you mostly?
I was thinking as I was coming over here that in a way it's a school for strivers. Everyone I met was looking to do something more, and that was a very, very powerful. To be around people like that. Everyone was looking to push themselves, and it's a very unpretentious school.
Well, this is just really so great. And I mean, we really all came together because of the reunion that's taking place this year. And hopefully we can do this again with more reunions coming up. And it is just so wonderful having you all here sharing your experiences. And I really hope that our viewing audience can get also infected by the idea of, gee, at any point in my life, at any age, I can go back to school.
Absolutely.
No matter how crazy life might have been for me before that, it's not the school for traditional students.
Right.
And the dean would tell us that, right? Absolutely.
As most
So,
people say, there's nothing general about general studies.
which is wonderful, and I'm just so happy to have all of you here, and I want to thank it's been a fascinating discussion, and I want to thank you all, and I want to thank our director, Ed, and Sheila Berry, who is in the control room, and of course, a very, very special thanks to Rich and Manhattan Neighborhood Network for making this show possible. You have been watching Minding Your Business, which shows you that you can also mind other people's business and learn something. And see yourself where you want to be, as our wonderful 6 guests here this evening have done, because they're all exceptional, and I look forward to having them back again. Janet, the last